For the best in paranormal talk radio, you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary.
And that is me. Well, boy, the weekend is approaching fast. In the news today, what can I say? Politics. What can I say? Alleged Russian female spy has been, getting to know a lot of people in the GOP for the last couple years. But what I find it very interesting, this Russian or so-called Russian female spy has been actually circulating around a lot of the UFO paranormal groups for some reason. I find that kind of strange. Why would a Russian spy has been accused of getting involved in the GOP start all of a sudden getting into the paranormal groups, mainly UFO groups? My feeling is, in Russia, they're very open about sightings of UFOs. They'll even tell their public, their citizens, that they saw a UFO that day or whatever. Are they going to force our country to come forward one of these days with blackmail or whatever to come out and say that UFOs exist? I don't know. Why would they have a Russian spy getting into American paranormal groups and UFO groups? Anyway, this is Gary. We're from the compound at the harbor here tonight. And our guest tonight is James. He runs a Facebook Live group, talk show. And James, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing?
I am doing good for an old fart.
I'm not too far behind you, I don't think.
Oh, I don't know. I'm 66 and feel sometimes 76. And sometimes, I feel 56. I'm still recovering from the news yesterday about Art Bell, what came out.
Yeah, that's been all over the internet. I've seen it. I wasn't looking for that. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I know. Me and Art Bell were friends. I mean, we weren't a close circle of friends, but he's the one back here. Called me out of the blue here last year. I think around towards the end of October, and he said, "Gary, are you going to come back up to Reno to visit on your Harley?" And I go, "I don't know. I'm not feeling good enough." And he goes, "Well, you know what? You need to get back into radio." And I said, "No, I'm past the age of wanting to do radio." And he goes, "No, seriously, get on internet radio. That is the future of broadcasting." And somehow he managed to talk me into it, James, and here I am with you.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that, I don't know, maybe a month or two back you were telling me that, and I think he's right. I really do. I think he is right. I mean, even my little show I do out of my group's getting incredible views, and it's growing all the time. That's where it's at, that social media internet. It's got a lot of different, crossing a lot of different groups and people, and it's I think it has more ability to touch more people, so to speak.
Oh yeah. In the paranormal, you face it, without Art Bell, the paranormal wouldn't have grown on either the internet or even on terrestrial radio. It would just never would have happened. I mean, he made the paranormal pretty much a household name. I know he made it a major name with truckers, into the paranormal. Oh,
yeah. You kidding me? He was like the Holy Grail of getting it started. I mean, really, I agree. Totally. That's why when I seen that today, I was like, now, is this that fake news or is this the real deal? You never know anymore. I wasn't looking for that. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, well, he was no druggie. I know Art for many years. I know that he had his lung problem from smoking a couple packs of cigarettes a day. That really destroyed his lungs. But before that, he fell off a pole working on an antenna back many years ago, which really wrecked his back to the point, that he was lucky he was not even in a wheelchair. So,
and with injuries like that, the older you get, believe it or not, you get the arthritis and scar tissue. Believe me, I played sports. That stuff sinks in. It catches up to you.
Yeah, and I can see the point. You're taking pain pills, and the problem with pain pills, because I have a health issue where I have to take pain pills, but I kind of wait till after I do the show at night because I have made a mistake a few times of taking it before I did my show.
Mm-hmm.
And the show got really strange, like I would be talking to a guest and I don't even know what I'm talking about. When I'm done with the show, I don't even remember doing the show. That's how bad it is. And at that point, I decided, hey, I'm never going to do that again. But I will tell you this. I had some of the highest ratings when I was under medication.
You probably was more talkative. Some people are, anyway.
Yeah, evidently I was.
Listen, I get where you're coming from. I broke my ankle and I couldn't even walk for a year. I had to get on those things, and they were tough to get off. I'll tell you, it's when you can't walk for a year and you got to take them because you had to have an operation and plates put on my ankle. Yeah, I know it's a tough thing.
Well, you know what's worse than that, and I'm going to talk about drugs for a minute if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm
going to just sum it up. Art was on 2 different pain pills. He was on a muscle relaxer. Now, that right there, at any given time, I mean, you can get by years doing that. But all it takes is one wrong time. And he was on muscle relaxer. He was taking stuff for, hypertension, blood pressure, because he had high blood pressure. It just actually caught up with him. And
well, I do know a lot about medicine. My deceased wife had a lot of medical problems, and I've studied a lot of medicine. And with muscle relaxers or any kind of medicine in that group, like Xanax or whatever, they work on your muscles or your diaphragm. They slow it down. Now those don't mix very well with pain pills, and they can have bad reactions. And what happens is your diaphragm it shuts down or forgets to keep working, and you die. I mean, it just they won't go well with pain pills at all.
Well, well, about 20 years ago, I had a friend that died just from, I guess he took, instead of 1 muscle relaxer, he took 2, thinking that would help, right? And then, he used to like drinking. It was just drinking beer. And I don't know how many beers he drank, but he drank a couple beers. He went to bed, and that was it.
Yeah, alcohol is one of the worst. It's another one. You mix with those things, it's a recipe for you're really playing around with disaster. You really are. My deceased wife, she, believe me, it happened to her. It happens. I've known a few people that it's happened to. The muscle relaxers and mixing with alcohol or just other pain pills. They just don't go well with other things, and it's unfortunately that happens. Yeah, they go to bed and they don't wake up or something.
Well, I tell you what's really bad though. That I have to take morphine tablets. I also take all the other ones because I've been fighting bone cancer for a while. For a couple of years, and it's somewhat in remission. It's funny, it kind of like stopped progressing, but during the day I can block out the pain really good. Soon as I lay down trying to sleep, I feel every ache and pain like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if my wife even moves in the bed, I'm in pain. And I learned a long time ago, that I'd rather have the pain than be doped up. And it is, like you said, it's really hard to come off of it. What happens, though, even if you start out on Tylenol 3, right? You take one, you get a buzz off of it. If it don't hurt as bad. But about 2 weeks later, if you're still taking it, 1 doesn't do it. So now you're up to 2 or 3. Then you're back to the doctor, and the doctor gives you a prescription of something stronger, and it just keeps going to the point you really get immune to it. So people start mixing one type of pain pill to another pain pill to try to kill the pain, and that's where it gets fatal.
It's a vicious circle, and not only that, sometimes you cross that line where you're masking the pain so much that you could actually injure yourself more and don't know it. And then it's more of a vicious circle. Yeah, believe me, I know all about it.
Well, I know something I can honestly tell everybody about, prednisone. I was on prednisone last year for a year. And
that's the steroid, isn't it?
Yeah.
And steroid, yeah.
And the doctor made a mistake when he wrote out the prescription, and he kept, that tells you how well, I'm not a doctor, but every 2 weeks I had to go to the doctor because of my health problem. And he would look at everything and, keep writing new prescriptions out. He made a mistake. Instead of, 40 milligrams, which is a lot to even take on prednisone a day, he started me out at 80 twice a day.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I didn't, after about 2 days being on it, I tell you, I had zero pain. And I felt good for about maybe 10 months, maybe 11 months. I felt fantastic, no pain. You know, I gained a lot of weight. I'll tell you that.
I was just going to say, those things make you eat like crazy. They make you hungry, for sure.
Well, you know, I controlled my eating during the day. Okay, I didn't hardly eat anything a day, but soon as I went to bed, the refrigerator said, "Hey, Gary, there's a gallon of ice cream in the refrigerator, and there's some root beer. Oh, by the way, there's French bread in the cupboard. Guess who ate it all?"
And you haven't been spending enough time with us. You've been out all day. Where you been?
Yeah, well, you know, I gained in a year's time from prednisone almost 100 pounds, and I'm trying to.
Well, I believe you. My deceased wife, she was on prednisone too. That's why I knew what you was talking about, and she went from 140 pounds to about 220 real quick. Yeah, I mean, it just puts on the weight, and you know what else? Those things are along with Advil and all that. They're bad on your kidneys and liver too. You know, there's a
it's called
effect.
Yeah, my kidneys were actually failing. You know. And it was because of that. You know, I went in there and they said, "Oh my God, your kidneys are starting to fail." And I go, "What happens?" Well, hey, if it doesn't start correcting real quick, you're going to be on dialysis the rest of your life. Which will.
And guess what? When you start that, you're on that 3 times a week, and you can't never stop. And yeah, that's and you know, prolonged pill use of that kind of pills too. It could, not necessarily, but it could give you pancreatitis too.
Well, I can tell you what it did do to me. I ride a motorcycle.
Right.
Even with my health issue, I still ride a motorcycle. This year, not as much as I normally ride about 18,000 miles a year. I think since last September, I haven't probably put 1,000 miles on because of my health. And doing this radio show takes about 10 hours a day of my time to book guests in, do stuff I have to do. So I haven't been able to get out and ride like I normally do. But when I was on prednisone, I tell you what, my friends, after a while, and I belonged to a club, they didn't want to ride with me anymore because they were scared to ride with me because we like doing twisties. And for people who don't know what twisties are, that's going around some of the mountain curbs or curbs. We find a road that has a lot of, you know, curbs out in the countryside. And, you know, the speed limit might be 35, 40 miles an hour. And we would take them on normally on a motorcycle, maybe 50, and everybody was happy, you know. I guess towards last, that's how I got my name Tombstone, by the way, a nickname, is I started taking it like doing 60, 70, 75. And
you were really leaning into it, wasn't you?
On a big Harley, too. And I
could just see that, yeah.
And I wasn't scared. I didn't have...
No, you was fearless, yeah.
Because of the prednisone does something to your mind. So I wasn't scared of anything. I mean, you know, I had no fear. The part it tells you in your mind, like, don't do this, you could get killed. It wasn't telling me that.
Yeah, well, yeah, they can make you aggressive. They got a slogan for it in the sports world. It's called roid rage. They can get you going.
I didn't have that problem, James, to about 11 months and 3 weeks into it.
Once you get the build up,
I went to, besides getting the moon